Hi, everybody. Welcome back to another Second Breakfast podcast. I'm Andy Roth. That's Phil Duvall. Say hi, Phil.
Hi, Andy. The thing is, when we first started talking about this podcast,
Mm-hmm.
we were gonna talk about Lily Sobieski on a regular basis. We were actually was gonna, like she was gonna be a huge feature of our show. We haven't talked about Lily Sobieski once.
I have to be
It's been
honest.
months. We've been doing this show for months, and not one peep, not one word about Lily Sobieski.
I don't remember this, but I will believe you. I will believe you that we were planning on making her a feature.
I
She
mean,
is
she's fascinating.
she is an excellent part of the modern classic Never Been Kissed.
They cloned Helen Hunt, and no one seems to care. And everybody knows it, and no one cares about the technology.
Oh,
Like,
oh,
they cloned a human being who is also, they're both fine actresses. And although I can't name one good movie Lily Sobieski's been in, I can't name one. It's fascinating to me. I don't, there never has someone been more interesting to me that has done less things that I have seen.
to be fair, in the movie Panic Room, Kristen Stewart is an absolute clone of Jodie Foster. It's terrifying. It is terrifying how much they look like each other.
Although she hasn't since grown out of that.
That's true. That's true. And Lily, not so
Um,
much.
no.
That's fair.
Now when they come with a straitjacket to take Jodie Foster away, um, no one will mistake Kristen Stewart for her.
That's true.
Whereas
That's
Helen
true.
Hunt could point to Lily Sobieski and give them the slip.
Who in the world could that be? So, Phil,
Yes,
what are we talking about today? Besides Lily
we're
Sobieski.
gonna we're gonna talk about our favorite movies from 2012, and
Yes.
or 10 movies that we think are just the things that we love the most. They're not our top 10 list.
Right.
We're not doing them in a specific order.
Yes. Well, we are doing
We're
it in
doing it in
specific order.
alphabetical order. It
Alphabetical
is a
order.
specific order, but it is alphabetical.
Yes.
And we have a lot of caveats here. Well, I do. Maybe you don't.
I may not have caveats, but I do have an entire list of movies that I loved. This is these aren't this isn't even just the movies that I loved that didn't make it list. This is the movies that I wanted to add, but there just wasn't room because we were only doing 10. Um, so
How
I
many
have
movies did you How many movies did you see in 2012 that were made in 2012
I think I'm
or
either up to
released in 2012?
either 62 or 63 by now.
Okay. So I saw 33,
Okay.
which you saw so many more than me. Now, what this means, dear viewers
Yes.
and listeners at home
Uh-huh.
and in your car and on your podcast and you at the gym, thank you for listening to us while you sweat. Means a lot to me. Um, what this means is that first of all, Andy's seen way more movies than I have, and so he gets an honorable mention on category that I refuse to take. Not because I think he's wrong to do it, but because I don't deserve one. I've I'm naming 10 movies that were my favorite. Roughly a third of the movies I saw last year, I'm naming. So that's like one of those fantasy leagues that's like there's 10 people and the top 7 get into the playoffs. You're
Right.
like, okay, so it's
Or
actually
just the NHL,
I
basically.
was gonna say the NBA or the
Nice.
NHL,
Nice.
right?
Nice.
Those two fake sports. So I think I'm gonna say my 10, but here's what we're really gonna do. Andy's gonna name some honorable mentions. Tell me if I'm wrong, Andy. Andy's gonna name
Yeah.
some things that he considers can't make his top 10. Then Andy and I put together a top 10 each separately and then
Yes.
compared them. We have 8 of the same movies in common, which I think is fine. I love that. I mean, I
Yes.
know it's supposed to be totally different. And I think the fancy thing would be like Siskel and Ebert had really similar top 10s, but they were in different orders.
Right.
We're listing in alphabetical order because we're not interested in ranking, because it's not about ranking. It's just here's an arbitrary number of things that we enjoyed.
Yes. One or the other of us might slip and use the term top 10 or something like that, but what we mean is our 10 favorite movies or the 10 movies that we love at this moment. If I make this list tomorrow, it might be slightly different. It probably wouldn't be, but it might be, and
I mean, there's a ton of movies from 2012 that I haven't seen that if I saw, I might change my mind.
sure.
And that's
I
the
mean,
thing.
me too, frankly.
Movie critics generally see every single movie.
Mm-hmm.
We're just movie lovers. We're like movie fans.
Indeed.
I've seen 33 movies. Andy's seen 63. Can you believe that? I'm offended. So we're going to name the 8. Andy's going to name his honorable mentions. Then we're going to name the 8 movies that we had in common. and then we'll each share the 2 movies that were exclusive to each person's list.
Yes.
I already consider Andy's list superior based on the fact that he's seen more movies, even though I disagree with him on some of his choices.
That's astonishing to me, but I appreciate it. And this will be our final podcast ever because my hidden purpose in all of this was to finally get Phil to feel shame about something, and he said that he didn't deserve an honorable mention category. So it's been lovely, and this will be our last one.
That's fine. I can't believe at all that you thought it was going to be hard to get me to feel shame. I feel so much shame on a regular basis. I don't talk about it with you guys, but I mean, I'm just filled to the brim with shame. Just awful feelings about myself. But I will say this.
Yes.
To make myself feel better, I will say this.
Please.
If we were doing shows watched on television in 2012, I would school you.
You would smoke me.
I watch so much television.
You're right. That is true.
And it's not all good. The funny thing is, you're more willing to watch a bad movie. And I'm like, I would never watch that. I don't have the time. But I will watch hours of terrible television.
And that is fascinating. I don't know that that's necessarily a subject for a future podcast, but it's certainly a subject for future therapy.
If we ever expanded Second Breakfast to talk about television, it would be a I don't know, it'd be a little terrifying. It'd be a whole other Megillah.
Bag of worms, box of monkeys or
potatoes,
box of
rolling bears. Okay,
yes.
let's get into the game.
So
I'm eating sweet potato chips. I apologize.
Don't ever apologize for eating sweet potato chips. Okay, so this is my honorable mention list. It is much like our top 10 or 10 favorites. It is in alphabetical order. It is not ranked by how much we love something. However, the first movie I'm going to say happens to have been my number 11. It was so hard leaving this off the list, and it also happens to start with an A. So very quickly, my honorable mention list: The Avengers, Beasts of the Southern Wild, Bernie, Celeste and Jesse Forever, Chronicle, The Dark Knight Rises, End of Watch, Jack Reacher, Jeff Who Lives at Home.
Oh, I wanted to see that so bad.
It's great. Killer Joe, Les Miserables, Looper, Prometheus, The Raid Redemption, Rec 3, Ted, and Your Sister's Sister.
Okay.
That's it. You want to talk about that at all?
If I were to have an honorable mention list, which I do not deserve,
sure.
I would put of the things you said, I would have put Ted, Bernie, and Chronicle on that list as well.
Nice.
Definitely Ted, Bernie, and Chronicle. Definitely. Mm-hmm. The only other ones that I would think that I didn't mention, I think Prometheus gets a honorable mention. I think Amazing Spider-Man might get an honorable mention.
Nice.
And I think Hunger Games gets an honorable mention literally just because of the crush on Jennifer Lawrence and how amazing her performance actually is. Like,
I agree.
Because it's a blockbuster, I don't think you think of it in terms of.
It's tough to sort of parse blockbusters like that.
It's not a great film. It's not a great film.
No, but she is
her
great.
Her performance in it is she. This is the year of Jennifer Lawrence. She owns 2012.
Agreed.
She commanded 2 films, maybe one of the 2 or 3 best films of the year, and then one of the biggest films of the year.
Agreed.
And she owned them both.
Agreed. Would you?
I would put Rise of the Guardians on my honorable mentions and Hope Springs. Those would be other ones I would mention. Prometheus is a very fascinating movie that doesn't belong on anybody's top 10 lists, but it's visually arresting, really good performances, and the other thing about it is from the mythology point of view, I'm fascinated by it. I think it's really clumsy. Actually.
I agree with it. I would agree with all of that. I think it's a fascinating, almost complete failure. It has great.
It's not a failure in the sense that it was never.
Together.
It was not a failure to me in the sense that I was never bored.
Agreed. I mean failure in that it doesn't really work as a movie, but it is an interesting failure.
It doesn't actually say anything intelligent. Okay, that's not right. That's not what I want to say. Because that sound, but it's close to what I want to say. What I wanted to say was, it doesn't add anything intelligent to the conversation to the primordial question, which is what are the first things?
Mm-hmm.
How did this come into being? And of course, the essential question for humanity, for existentialism, is why us, and is there a God?
Yep.
I mean, these are the questions. It actually does not add anything intelligent to that.
No.
That being said, it plays in that playground.
True.
And it's sort of like it's a playground. It's playing with these tough questions, and it looks like a grown-up movie, and it acts like a grown-up movie, but it's basically asking questions in what I consider to be a fairly immature way.
I agree with that.
Wow, that's not the most ringing endorsement for Prometheus. I'm glad I saw it. It tore my face.
An impossibly beautiful movie. It's such interesting visuals.
How do you say her last name? Numa Rapace? Rapace? It's just Rapace?
I think it's Rapace. I don't know.
Numa Rapace is like a fascinating actress.
Agreed.
She makes me, every time she's on the screen, I want more of her. I want to know more.
Yes. Agreed.
Whatever character I see her playing.
Agreed. Absolutely. Any other comments about my list so far?
Well done, Andy.
Thank you. Would you like to say our 8, or would you like me to say our 8?
I'll say the 8, but are we going to stop at each one, or are we just going to list them?
Let's go through one at a time. I mean, come on. It's us.
Okay, again, folks. Alphabetical order, okay?
Indeed.
Number 1 agreed upon. Argo.
You know what? This is to me, this is the pinnacle. This is going to sound like damning with faint praise, but I really don't mean it that way. This is the pinnacle of like Hollywood studio filmmaking.
Yeah.
You know, like it's not reinventing the wheel, but it's solid entertainment done intelligently, and it's a blast to watch.
I think it's so entertaining that it actually almost loses. There's a mystique that gets lost. Like it's so easy to watch and get caught up in, and then it's over, and it's so fully satisfying.
You don't necessarily know how good it is.
Right, that you almost feel like it was a popcorn flick.
Right.
It doesn't deserve love.
Right. I totally agree with you. Something else I think that plays into that quite nicely is, and something that is so much that Ben Affleck does in this movie, and he makes it look easy, and it is absolutely not, is he so deftly balances completely opposing feelings. There is the humorous, almost goofy Hollywood stuff. And
it's amazing how they're able to juxtapose that with the most terrifying sequences.
Oh,
I mean, they're not the most terrifying because, well, that's the thing is, Argo seemed really, really scary until I saw Zero Dark 30.
Right.
And then Zero Dark 30 was like, oh, I'm sorry. Were you pretending that this was what the world was like? Let me terrify you. Although to be fair, that makes it sound like Argo was a kids movie in that sense, and it wasn't. Like, I think when I look back on it, the moments in Argo were tremendously scary, but they were balanced so much with fun that. And it was unexpected fun because the last 2 movies that Ben Affleck made have been relentlessly pretty dark.
Yes.
Pretty unrelenting in that sense. And that's okay. They've been wonderful.
Yes.
But this was a more balanced piece in that sense, which reminds me, someone pointed out, we talked about Oscar snubs for Best Director, and we mentioned Tarantino, and we mentioned Catherine Bigelow, but Ben Affleck didn't get nominated.
I know. And Phil and viewers and listeners, he was, we restricted ourselves mostly to 1 snub per category, and he was my number 3.
I think it's silly. I think it's silly.
I think
it's silly. I think I'm still not, and this is another conversation for another time, possibly during Oscar season, so to speak.
Sure.
It's just, when best director, when a movie gets nominated for best picture and not best director, is to me, which now is much more plausible because there's 10 nominees for best picture, which is the dumbest thing that ever happened to the Academy Awards.
Right.
Stupider than the best animated feature category, which is just stupid. Yeah.
Yeah. Ben Affleck should have been. He was.
Every performance is spot on. Every single one.
Yes.
Bryan Cranston is phenomenal in this movie.
Yes.
Ben Affleck is great. Oh, by the way, while I was saying phenomenal and rolling my eyes like a artsy fartsy person,
yes,
I was reminded. I went and saw my next door neighbor tonight to borrow some stuff.
Yeah. Cup of sugar, stick of butter.
Allen wrench. Don't worry about it.
Sure.
Rang the doorbell. The female counterpart of my neighbors answered and laughed when she saw me because she was in the middle of watching A Second Breakfast.
Awesome.
And
she
then
like
she
summoned
proceeded,
you. It's like a power she didn't even know she had.
It was great, and she said that she was watching the one where we talked about Oscar snubs, and she didn't, or maybe favorite movies in 2000. No, I guess that's this one. So you can't be talking about that one. Whatever one she was watching. She was watching the one where we talked about the movies that we haven't recorded yet. No, she was watching something, and she said, I haven't seen most of these movies. And then she said, you guys are simultaneously incredibly pretentious and completely endearing. And I was like, thank you?
That's a little too honest and completely true. I'm kind of uncomfortable.
And I was like, and I love her so much. She's one of my favorite people that I've met recently. And I said, well, because you know what it did is I live in this world where I don't think I'm pretentious and where I think I'm
What?
I try to think of myself as not a pretentious person.
Sure.
And I still don't. I think I'm going to tell myself she's wrong so that I can sleep tonight.
Nice.
But I recognize, like, that I'm a snooty person, and I think that because I watch professional wrestling and listen to Neil Diamond and do these things unironically, that somehow that makes me a man of the people. I don't think the people feel that way.
Yeah, it's our cross to bear.
Last night I hung out with a bunch of Episcopal priests.
Okay.
At a retreat center in Malibu, California.
Okay.
And smoked cigars and drank a 12-year-old scotch. I am a pretentious human being. If I'm not pretentious, because I think pretentious, there's pretense. If I'm not pretentious, I'm at least really snobby. And those aren't the same thing necessarily.
That's fair.
But I guess what I'm saying is our movie list, we try to make it like, we don't do lists. We're like this way. And we try to be all like, and we think that we're making ourselves more accessible. It's possible we're just getting douchier and douchier and douchier. I don't know. Here's the thing. We're going to continue to live the way we live.
Right.
C'est la vie, my friend.
Yeah. Viewers, if we are in fact getting douchier and douchier, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Now.
I'll tell you we'd work on it, but apparently it wouldn't work anyway.
Well, no, she said we were simultaneously very endearing.
Yeah, but how long will that last? Shall we move on?
I don't know. She was watching while I wasn't there. It's not like she watched because I asked her to.
She could have been like, these are all the reasons I'm going to kill them.
I hadn't thought of that, and that's a possibility. Like that Steve Buscemi scene in Happy
Yes,
Gilmore.
Guys to Kill.
Madison.
Boy, am I glad I called that guy.
So glad I called that guy.
Shall we move on since we've only hit the first movie of our 8 movies in concert there?
Number 2, numero 2. Cabin in the Woods.
Cabin in the Woods.
Best horror movie since Scream, according to this guy.
No.
Who very rarely watches horror movies.
Best horror movie since maybe even past Scream, according to this guy who watches a lot
of more horror movies.
Yeah, you
do.
I don't actually think it's the best because it's so different than so many horror movies.
It's
so enjoyable. If you and it is not too scary for people who don't like scary movies.
It's
Phil and I
pretty-
disagree on that point.
It's gory.
That's true. That's true. It is very gory. Especially the end gets like crazy, crazy gory. But if you can handle that, it's never done. If you have seen the trailer for the upcoming Evil Dead remake, it is not that kind of blood.
Why do
It
you have
is-
to bring it up? It's nighttime. I'm not gonna be able to sleep now. You said that.
Can you see how sorry I am? Can you see how sorry I am in my face?
Andy,
Yes.
you don't look sorry.
You have cracked my code. So Cabin in the Woods, if you watch it and you don't have a good time, I think that might actually be your fault. Like I think like it's such a subjective thing, right?
Right.
But
Like
I
there are
think if you
reasons.
watch-
Like so, for instance, it follows a lot of the horror things. So, for instance, there's gratuitous nudity, which, well, I consider because I am a prude and a silly religious person, I tend to think of almost all nudity in films gratuitous.
Sure.
Almost all.
Sure.
This movie has that, and it's
Right.
that sort of like, look, naked people, young hot naked people, because, and I'm complaining about this because that's the kind of terrible person I am. But it is that I am legitimately that kind of terrible person. Where when it happened in the movie, I was like, well, that's not necessary. I mean, did I look away? Clearly not. But I was like, that's not necessary. Like, let me look closer. That's bad.
to
No.
really know how
So
unnecessary.
if you're prude like me about that stuff, that might bother you. If you don't like violence and gore in movies, it might bother you. It will bother you. I mean, it should.
Right,
But
right,
it is so it's so clever. It's so
clever.
fun. Like
Yes.
if you remotely can handle scary movies and you remotely can handle that stuff, see Cabin in the Woods.
Yes.
Everybody in it is so good.
Yes.
You know what it's
Agreed.
like? It's just like a real movie that happens to be a horror movie.
That's very well put. That's very well put.
You know what I mean,
agree with
guys? Because sometimes horror movies are like it's all about just the killing and the murdering and the scaring.
Yes.
This movie just feels like a real movie that you're watching that also happens to be horrific.
that. Yes. I agree.
Okay,
I
Cabin in
agree.
the Woods, number 2. Number 3, unless you wanted to say anything else about Cabin.
Just watch it. Go on.
Number 3, alphabetically,
Yes.
Django Unchained. Brrr. I feel like we've talked a lot about Django Unchained in the last week.
I
2
agree.
weeks.
I agree. But it always bears repeating. Much like Argo, except even more so because this I think has been proven over his entire career. And you have said this specifically, but I'm going to say it too because I'm co-opting your phrase.
You're welcome.
Quentin Tarantino's movies are so fun to watch. He tricks you into forgetting how amazingly complex and well put together they
Yes.
are. Here is how good this movie is. Quentin Tarantino doing a horrific Australian accent in some weird way actually adds to the movie. There is no reason that should work because it doesn't, and yet I can't imagine it any other way than it is. It is.
I say that's how Australians talk. Prove me wrong.
That's right. That's right.
1, 2. Yeah, I think you're
Prove me
right.
wrong,
And I think the only
Oz.
other thing I would add to that, is every performance is special. Every single performance is special in that movie.
Yes. agree with
People
that.
that you've never heard of or seen, plus people you have. Every single performance matters in that movie. Every single shot is beautiful. Even if you're not a movie fan like us, it's beautiful. Every song is good. All of that. And Tarantino has a line in Pulp Fiction, or Bruce Willis has a line in Pulp Fiction, where he says they keep underestimating you. And I think that's the thing with Tarantino is this is clearly, we're not listing them in order, but this is clearly my favorite movie of the year, clearly far and away. And it's, I don't know if it's his best movie, but it's worth talking about in that conversation.
I agree.
I mean, it's okay. Number the 3rd,
No.
4th. We talked about this movie a lot this week as well. The Gray. And I'm not sure how much more we want to say about it. People, listen. It's not a movie about a man punching wolves. That's not what it's about.
Yeah. Which
There
would
are
be awesome.
wolves.
I mean, that'd be great.
I said on the previous podcast that if they had made that movie as well, I would have loved it.
Yes.
I went in hoping for that, and it was. Have you ever been disappointed because something was better than you wanted it to be? Is there a name for that? It's like the opposite. I have a buddy who calls it anticipantment. Whatever the opposite of that is, like inverse anticipantment, right? Like you go in expecting to see something that kicks ass, and then it doesn't. And you're like, oh. How about you go in expecting to see like a kick-ass B movie, and instead it's a really thoughtful meditation on death, the existence or non-existence of God, mortality, sinfulness, brokenness, humanity, more,
But it's not like it's not like going to class. It is.
Oh God, no. It's just
totally
a good story.
Accessible. Yes.
It's just a good story. It's a good story. It's a good story where men get chased by wolves and you are terrified and thinking, and it's edge of your seat and it's real. It has the most beautiful death scene I have ever seen in a movie ever. And I will talk to you about that off the air, Andy. It is the most beautiful death scene I have ever seen in a movie.
I think I know the one you mean, but I look forward to talking to you about it.
I've only seen the movie once, and it was a year ago, and I'm still thinking about it. That's all I'll say.
I mean, and the only thing I'll add, and we've said it before, and because it only needs this, it is a beautiful movie. However you define beautiful, it's a beautiful movie. It's. Oh, I just felt myself get pretentious there. Don't care. Beautiful movie.
Total man crush on Liam Neeson. Had it forever.
Totes. Oh my God.
I didn't realize I had it. You know in those movies like Some Kind of Wonderful when Eric Stoltz is like thinks he's in love with Leah Thompson because who wouldn't be? Mm-hmm. But it turns out he's in love with Mary Elizabeth Mastrantonio because she's the right one for him. And it's like it's almost that like I never. By the way, if you hadn't seen that, I do apologize. It's kind of obvious from the beginning. It will not ruin the movie for you. It will not spoil it. See Some Kind of Wonderful. It's a blast.
Yes.
But it's that kind of thing where it's like, oh, I just realized how I felt all along.
But it's Mary Stuart Masterson. It's not Mary Elizabeth Mastrantonio.
You're exactly right. You're exactly
right.
Judgment. Mary Elizabeth Mastrantonio. No, and I yeah, I know who Mary Elizabeth Mastrantonio is. See the Abyss, everybody. Anyways, so
Nice.
But Mary Stuart Masterson and Eric Stoltz and there's like that's kind of how my feelings for Liam Neeson were. I didn't realize I loved him, and then I thought that I loved Mel Gibson.
Yeah.
But it turned out all along it was really Liam Neeson was the one for me.
Nice. Yeah, I
should have known it in 1995 when Rob Roy came out, and instead of Braveheart, it was a better movie, but I didn't.
Indeed.
Number 5 out of 8.
Yes. Maybe I am not as certain about this one as you, I believe, are about Django Unchained. Maybe my favorite movie of the year.
Unquestionably, to me, the biggest Oscar snub.
Yep.
Moonrise Kingdom.
Oh. Love.
Preach, Andy. Oh, by the way, to my neighbor who thinks we're pretentious, I have this on Blu-ray. You can borrow it from me. I'd love for you to borrow it and watch it. Okay, continue.
I can't think of a movie that is a more lovely depiction of first love. It is, and what's wonderful about it is there's so much else going on in the movie. It is about the way families shape us, nature versus nurture, if you will. On the most surface level, it's about small town life. It's about, honestly, I'm gonna say that I think the thing that it's about most is about family, and all of those and all of the different ways that a family can form, either by blood or by marriage or by choosing a family. One of the families in the movie is a Cub Scout, Boy Scout troop, basically, and how that family fits into the larger. What are they called? They're called Khaki Scouts. Khaki Scouts. How one troop fits into the larger Khaki Scout family. How if there is a villain, it's uh, a woman who seeks to impose a particular view of family on the other people in this story. It is, but at the end of the day, it is just a sweet love story between two kids.
I think the reason I love everything you said. I disagree with you, I think that's great. I don't think it's about as much about family as, for instance, Royal Tenenbaums is, although it is about family.
That's fair.
But I don't think it's as much about family as that, or even Fantastic Mr. Fox. But I think, to me, it's more about, this is the movie where Wes Anderson, who I think has been playing with like adolescence and playing with that when innocence finds out that that it's innocent, that there's such a thing as not to be innocent, and it wants to be innocent anyway, which is, I think, something he's playing with a lot.
I agree.
I think this is the most crystallized form of that. There's movies where the adults are buffoons and blah, 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 but this is the first movie where he just lets the kids really be the moral center of something.
Yeah.
The kids they're the moral center. They're not overly.
They're not precious. They're not overly wise. They just are who they are.
But they become the moral center of the show, and them finding out the truth about adults and the, I guess, I don't know, adolescence just sucked for me. So watching this movie felt like he was like writing. I felt like if that movie had come out when I was 15, it would have been my favorite movie of all time.
I'm gonna change slightly what I said to, I think that what Wes Anderson does with all of his movies, to some degree or another, is explore what family means. I feel like, I will absolutely agree with you that in many ways this is the purest crystallization of that exploration so far. It is, for those just listening, and to explain to Phil, because I don't want him to think that I wasn't listening to him or paying attention. I got a goofy grin on my face while you were saying some things that weren't necessarily funny or even amusing or even happy necessarily. And it is because every word said about this movie reminds me of a moment in the movie. And if you can watch this movie and not have a smile on your face, that's just surprising to me. And what's funny about that?
It's a shame on you. That's why. Fool me twice. Shame on. Fool me, you won't get fooled again.
Won't get fooled again. Here's what's funny, Phil, real quick. One of my best friends in the world could not finish this movie. He was like, no, I can't, no.
I guess, and that's fine. It's like, it is one of those things where we've talked about this on a previous podcast a while back, where I went and saw this movie by myself, and I thought twice before showing it to my wife, who ended up liking it, and she said it was the first Wes Anderson movie she liked.
Nice.
Which was confusing to me, but that's fine.
Sure.
Almost caused a deep rift in our marriage. We worked through it. You focus on the things you have in common, and then things get okay. But the thing is, like, it is one of those things where, I like it. It is so personal to me that if you didn't like this movie, all right. I mean, like I said, man, some people don't like Dylan. Some people don't like Tom Waits. Some people, I mean, really, they don't. Like, they don't. And I'm not. I don't care anymore. Like, I just go, okay, like, that's cool, like,
right.
You're wrong. In my heart, I believe that you're wrong, but what do I know? Like, right. I just thought it was beautiful. But if someone doesn't like it, I don't want to fight with them. I just don't want to, I just don't have anything to say. Like, you and I can fight about a movie.
Right.
But if you disagreed with me on this, I wouldn't. It's like Harold and Maude, actually. It is. I haven't seen Harold and Maude, by the way, in at least 10 years.
Sure.
But when you say you don't like it, I actually, I just don't want to talk to you about it.
Sure. Because
I can't imagine what the conversation would be.
Right.
Like,
right.
I loved it deeply. You hated it. What is there to say? Like,
right.
What am I gonna say something that's gonna make you believe that it was honest? What are you gonna do? Say something that makes me not enjoy it? What's the point of that conversation?
That's true. No, that's
Moonrise Kingdom, I love it. Okay, that might be. It's not my favorite, but it was probably. I had to rank it. It'd be 2 or 3. It's right. It's right there.
Yeah.
Okay. The next shared film, just saw it for me. You've already seen it twice.
Yep.
Silver Linings Playbook.
Yeah. I mean, Jennifer Lawrence continues her rise to the top of Hollywood. Bradley Cooper proves he's not just a set of washboard abs. Robert De Niro.
For the record, Bradley, I never thought that about you. I thought you were a very good comic actor.
Agreed.
I didn't know that he could be. I did not. I thought he was a phenomenal comic actor. I did not know that he could be a dramatic actor.
Yes.
And he was great. Just fantastic.
Have enjoyed Bradley Cooper in comedy since Wedding Crashers. I think
Although this technically is a comedy.
Technically, yes.
It is a comedy. Not technically. It's a comedy.
Yes.
But it is. There's a legitimate gravity and depth.
Yes. Robert De Niro, awake in a movie probably since before Phil and I went through puberty.
No, not that long, but it's been a while.
It's been a while. Jackie Weaver as the mom. These four people that I have just listed, all
I was
nominated.
convinced that was Sally Struthers for the
Nice.
almost the entire movie.
Nice.
I don't know who's Jackie Weaver. Like, who is she?
I don't. She's the person who is wonderful as Bradley Cooper's mom. Honestly.
She really is.
Other people in this movie are excellent, and I apologize to those fine actors that I do not know their names. The guy who is the guy who is his friend, Julia Stiles is wonderful in a small role. The older gentleman who is the Cowboys fan, who as anyone knows is only right. He is, if there is a villain to the piece, it is the Cowboys fan. It is a romantic comedy. And if you were to sort of strip it down, it hits a lot of familiar romantic comedy beats and tropes. But it is not about the destination. It is about the journey. And it is just such an involving, fun, honest journey that I can't imagine not loving it.
Okay. I'm with you.
Okay.
I'm with you. Just to say this,
Yeah.
De Niro in 1995 made Casino and Heat. De Niro in 1997 made Copland, Wag the Dog, and Jackie Brown.
Okay.
And then that was it. And so it's been 1997 was his last good year. He had little moments. I thought the score was okay. Other people would disagree with me and say it was terrible. I thought.
I'm with you. I thought it was okay.
I thought I didn't see The Good Shepherd. I thought Stardust, he was fine in it.
Yep.
And I thought, but that was the same. Yeah. And then I thought he had a small part in Machete, which I thought he was cool in.
Sure.
But something
you didn't know. Something you didn't know. I only went through puberty last week, so.
Oh well.
Yes.
In that case, okay,
right.
Fair
Right.
enough.
Right.
95 and 97 were.
I spoke for you and I shouldn't
97.
have, but for me, yes. Fair point.
Our next film, I have nothing to add except that Jennifer Lawrence is amazing.
Yep. See
I'm gonna leave it at
everything
that.
she's in. See everything she's
She's
in
earned it.
now because she hasn't been in that many things you can get in the ground floor.
She's earned it already.
Yep. Already earned it.
She's amazing.
Yeah.
I want to see everything she does.
Yes.
I'm so excited for our number 7 out of 8.
Me too.
I'm gonna wreck it. I'm gonna wreck it.
It does not mean you're bad guy
I love Wreck-It Ralph so much.
so much.
I would have loved to have seen it get nominated for an Academy Award. I am still shocked by the fact that this movie is not. If it was Pixar, it would have been nominated for a lot of things, and it would have won the Golden Globe for best animated feature.
Yes.
It's not Pixar, but it is Disney, and it's better than the movie. It's better than the Pixar movie that came out this year.
Agreed. And I very much liked Brave, but
I liked Brave.
Yes.
Listen, I don't want to go into depth about Wreck-It Ralph. Guys, we did a whole podcast on Wreck-It Ralph a while back, which is I still look it back as one of our first really great episodes because we rank our own stuff because we're annoying. But I really liked that episode. I think we had some good conversations, and I think we talked about it without even doing spoilers. Wreck-It Ralph, we consider it a perfect film. We loved it. It's sublime. It's fun. It's good for families. It's good without families. It's got John C. Reilly and a bunch of other people that are fantastic who do great voice work, great animation. And I would say if you are our generation, if you were born between 1975 and 1985, this movie will blow your face off.
Yes.
If you let it.
It is glorious. The only thing I'd add, one of the things we talk about in the Wreck-It Ralph podcast is sort of the concept of the perfect movie. And something that this sounds kind of weird because we think of perfection as an objective ideal, but in our definitions of perfection as it comes to movies, as it pertains to movies, it's a very subjective thing. What I consider a perfect movie is not what Phil considers a perfect movie necessarily.
No.
It is and I bring this up because I had a family member who over Christmas was like, "You thought that was a perfect movie?" But he was like, "I really liked it. I really did." He's older, so he isn't of the generation that grew up playing video games.
Yeah.
But as we broke it down and as we talked about it, he didn't say anything that made me change my mind, even in the way that someone can change your mind about a movie. Because again, the perfection that we're talking about, which I absolutely stand by, I know Phil does too. It is a subjective thing, but that doesn't make it any less real. This is a perfect movie. It's a perfect movie,
Yeah,
and
and
it's a blast to watch.
my brother, one of my brothers got annoyed with me because he was like, "You think that's a perfect movie?" And then we got in a big conversation where he was like, "Is this a perfect movie? Do you think this?" And I think it really is a matter of like, to me, it's perfect to me.
Yep. Yep.
Okay,
Wrap us
and
up.
our final movie that we agreed upon,
Yes.
and my is Zero Dark 30.
Yes.
I don't even know that I want to say anything about it.
That's fair.
So I almost feel like just see it. Just shut up and see it. I will say this. I'm not going to say anything. I will say this. Right? I know. Is this. I am very interested in how we generally all think torture is wrong, except that we all generally, or many of us on some level, feel like, yes, but if you knew for a fact this guy knew about this 9/11, for instance, and you knew that if you tortured him, he would tell you and then you'd save thousands of lives, would you be okay with it then? Most people on some level are like, I don't want to answer, but yes.
Sure.
This movie deals with that. It doesn't come down on one side or the other. It deals with it. It portrays that reality. If you are a person like me who wonders about if violence is really, if killing is okay in any case, what are the boundaries of that, and what should we be thinking about that, and what is our government doing in other countries? If you ask those questions, not even if you critique it, if you're just asking those questions, this movie deals with that.
Right, and I want to drive home the point, Phil, because I know that what you're saying when you say that is not what the hell is our country doing. You're not saying
No.
You're not coming down on one side or the other.
No.
And I think that this movie, much like, I can't remember if you said this in the podcast or just to me, much like Dead Man Walking, which is a movie about the death penalty. If you go in thinking a certain way, you will find something in this movie to confirm and refute that viewpoint. Whether or not it changes your mind, it will make you ask the question again.
I really mean this not as a way of like betraying one way or the other that I believe about stuff, because I don't always know what I think. I'm not as people think that I think some of my friends think I'm more convinced about this stuff than I actually am, and
Sure.
I think the movie's very, very helpful for me just to think about it. And I think, and by the way, it's a brilliantly executed film.
Yes, brilliantly executed.
And every performance in it is phenomenal.
Yes.
Including Leon Panetta, played by James Gandolfini.
He's so good.
And Kyle Chandler, who just I love seeing in everything.
There's nothing that couldn't be made better by a little more Kyle Chandler.
Clear eyes, full hearts.
Can't lose. Yeah.
All right, now that's our top 8 that we agree upon.
Yeah. Mind if I go? I'll go ahead.
Hit it.
All right. So the 2 that I included on mine that Phil did not have on his, guys, this year was just I think just an incredibly strong year for independent cinema. On my honorable mention list, I mean, you had Beast of the Southern Wild, Bernie, Celeste and Jesse Forever, Jeff Who Lives at Home, Killer Joe, Your Sister's Sister. These are all small movies that you had to go out of your way to see, but they are worth it. Thank you, Netflix. Now you have to go less out of your way. And two that I think stood above the pack. Ruby Sparks, which is about a writer who wrote the most brilliant American novel ever at the age of like 20 and is now in his late 20s, and he's like, what the hell am I doing? You know? And he
Right.
he writes the perfect woman. Like he manifests the perfect woman. And things go downhill from there. It is a gloriously inventive movie. It is written by the girl who plays the figment of his imagination, Zoe Kazan, who I believe is the granddaughter of Elia Kazan, the
Yes.
the famed
The
director.
great film director.
Yes. It is Paul Dano, who you know from There Will Be Blood and Little Miss Sunshine. He is as good in this as he has been in anything. Chris Messina, who does great work. Steve Coogan as the smarmiest person ever, which he's very good at. It is endlessly inventive. Oh, Antonio Banderas and Annette Bening in small roles. The cast is uniformly excellent, and you can tell they are having fun with a movie that, in the best way, makes absolutely no sense.
Interesting.
And the other movie, Safety Not Guaranteed, which is the story of a newspaper team of journalists. It's a journalist and two interns who go to investigate a personal ad that goes something along the lines of wanted a partner to help me go back in time, must bring your own weapons. I have only done this once before. You'll be paid when we get back. Safety not guaranteed. And they go to find out what is this guy? Like what's this guy's deal? And the cast is amazing. It's such a charming movie. It's another one of these. If you're not smiling at the end of this movie, it's kind of on you. I'm
looking forward to that movie tremendously. I'm very much looking forward to it.
It is marvelous.
Very much.
And so those are my two. And I would say that if 2013 is anything like 2012, once every couple months, go out of your way to one of the non-multiplex movie theaters in your neighborhood, because
we'll talk about it too.
Yeah, there's something there that's interesting.
I have a feeling I'm going to see a lot more movies this year because of our show.
I hope you do. Your two. Finish this off.
My two are three movies. Deal with it. The Avengers. I saw it 4 times in the theaters, and I'm shocked you didn't put it on your list. I know you said it was 11, but I kind of don't care.
Me too. I'm shocked too.
No, but I mean, I don't blame. I would have go so far as to say I'm incredulous. Not just shocked. I'm incredulous because like you come on,
Phil.
Anyways, okay.
I can only help you so much. I can't help you. What are you gonna do?
I guess I don't believe you, but okay. It's the most fun. It's the most fun I've had in the theaters in forever. It is
an awful amount of fun.
Yeah. Okay. And then I can't decide between these two, and they're both flawed.
Sure.
And Dark Knight Rises and Lincoln. Dark Knight Rises is flawed, and I can't put my finger on it because I don't agree with a lot of the criticisms.
Sure.
When I read critiques of this movie, I don't agree with them. Sure. It doesn't quite hold the momentum that we... Sometimes I think Bane isn't as scary as the Joker.
Right.
And Bane should be scarier than the Joker.
Okay.
That might be my reasoning. It has Anne Hathaway being gorgeous. That's worth points.
Agreed.
I found Bane scary just the same, regardless of what anybody said. And I believe, unlike, and here's what I found fascinating is, Joker didn't make me feel like all of Gotham was threatened.
Okay.
It made me feel like I never knew what was going to happen, but I never actually believed that. But they really did create a situation where I felt like this will go nuclear. This is like it felt cataclysmic. It
Okay.
felt epic in that way, and I was amazed.
Sure.
And I think it sewed up the whole idea of what might be the greatest critique of superhero mythology, masquerading as a superhero movie.
Yeah.
Fascinated by that, and I want to spend
Fascinating.
more time with it.
Sure.
Lincoln had one of the greatest performances I've ever seen ever.
Yeah.
Daniel Day-Lewis was so perfect
Yeah.
and he played someone that our country cares so much about and is so central to our identity as a people.
Yep.
And he did it so beautifully.
Agreed.
And we all hate slavery, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
And so we were actually emotionally invested in the outcome before the fact.
Agreed.
Like walking in, I should say, walking in. So it was cathartic, and it was emotional, and it was investing, and he was just arresting. And all this stuff covers up a lot of flaws, in my opinion. I did not like the way the movie, and I thought there were a couple other really good performances. I thought Tommy Lee Jones and Sally Field deserve their nominations, and our other guy, what's our guy that we love?
David Costabile.
He's great.
Great.
Everybody in it, but I just thought it was overly. I don't like every single person I see being a famous actor. I thought it was a little overdone in that sense.
Sure.
And I thought the direction was really, really weird and not in any way his best direction. You and I have talked about that before.
Agreed.
And I thought the writing was okay, not great.
Sure.
Sorry, Kush. But I think his performance was so good that it deserves to be mentioned in my top 10.
I agree with everything that you just said, except the conclusion that it bumps it into the top 10. It's a matter of degree, of course.
You've seen more movies than me.
Sure.
And I'm not. Although you've seen some more movies than me, and you still picked almost the same movies.
It's true.
So there
you hit the highlights. I really think you did.
That's true.
So, ladies and gentlemen out there in Second Breakfast Land, these were the movies. You know, my honorable mentions, our shared list, which I swear we didn't plan that. It's amazing, and the two each that we parted ways with each other. 2012, what a great year! It was
a great year.
It really was just a.
It was the year when Second Breakfast began.
That's true. That's true.
You're welcome, world.
Future generations will know.
There's one other thing we need to say.
What's that?
Happy birthday, Andy.
Thanks, Phil.
It's Andy's birthday, everybody.
You know what? It is, and I can't imagine a better thing to be doing on my birthday than talking about all the amazing movies that we saw last year.
Are you 34 or 33?
I am 34.
You made it through the Jesus year uncrucified. Good job, buddy.
Every Jew is like, oh God, oh no.
Hey, listen, I'm a Gentile, and I'm worried. I've got another 7 months or 6 months before I get it there, so.
Indeed.
6 months exactly.
Fantastic. Is
All
your birthday my half birthday?
July 17th?
Yes. And the synergy, folks, just keeps on coming. It just keeps on coming.
Do you see why we love each other, people? Do you see it?
This is the only reason why. No other reason.
Are you sure you did not see it? Do you have a kiss for daddy?
Are you kidding?
So that's how it is in their family. All right.
This is that's all we got. We're gonna wrap up. This has been another
Mailbag
Second
tomorrow.
Breakfast. Yes, been another Second Breakfast podcast. Tomorrow we'll see you for the mailbag. We have more good questions because you guys always come through. I'm Andy Roth, alongside Phil Duvall. We'll see you again tomorrow. Bye-bye.
Bye.